listening to the Tricorder transmissions.
Shore Leave episode 32, Trekonderoga 2017, the Fan Sets Contest, and a very special announcement.
Just what the doctor ordered. Right, doctor? I couldn't have prescribed better.
Your shuttle has just arrived at Space Dock, which means it's time, once again, for Shore Leave, your Star Trek convention community podcast. This is our 32nd episode, and tonight we will be talking about the 2017 Trekonderoga convention that took place a few weeks ago, the Fan Sets contest we're currently running in our Facebook group, and a super secret special announcement from the Shore Leave crew. So I am, of course, Jeff Hewlett, and alongside me for this journey to upstate New York and beyond is none other than the Kirk to my Spock, the Janeway to my Chakotay, the Sanagorn to my Elf. Oh, wait. The other way around. Reverse that. The Elf to my Sanagorn. She's the one and only Heather Barker.
So you realize now that next STLV, I'm going to have to be Sanagorn and you're going to have to be my Elf.
Oh, how funny would that be if we role reversed it?
You have to wear my Anovos dress.
That would be awesome. And then we're walking in like, who's in the Sanagorn costume? Then you have to unmask yourself.
Oh, maybe I just wear the mask. Like you wear your suit and I'll be Elfgorn. I'll be Elfgorn.
Oh, okay. I'm sure we can make that happen.
I don't think I want to wear that Santa suit.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Well, I'm surprised you didn't hear him laughing because we've got a guest with us here tonight. He's a man who's listened to every episode of the Tricorder transmissions and a fellow Trekonderoga attendee. And he's also a time travel expert and the creator of ParadoxParkway.com, Mr. Steve Sikoriak. Welcome to Shore Leave.
Hello, and hello, everyone. I was listening. I was trying not to laugh because I was respecting the crew. Keeping my distance until later. But
you're superior.
If I may add, though, I would love the idea of Heather as Gorn, and then it'll be a whole Andy Kaufman thing where they'll go like, "Oh, there's Jeff," and then Jeff will go, "What?"
Jeff just randomly walks up at some point.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. Oh, it's a great idea. I love that. You know how much I love Andy Kaufman, Steve. Thanks for throwing that out. And we might have to make that happen. All right. So, well, you know what, guys? Before we jump into the show, we want to mention really quickly that we've set up a brand new Patreon to help us keep the show up and running. You can find it at patreon.com/the Tricorder transmission. So if you enjoy what we do here on Shore Leave or any of our Tricorder transmission shows, please consider supporting us. Every little bit helps, and keep your eyes and ears on the podcast and on our website. We're working on our Patreon rewards as we speak, so we'll get them ready for you guys in the very, very near future. Now, so we've got a lot to cover here, so we're going to be moving in a pretty breakneck pace on this episode. And the first thing we're going to talk about really quickly is our contest that we have. And so your Shore Leave crew, Heather and I, have partnered up with the folks over at Fan Sets to put together an incredible new contest. And it's exclusive to our Facebook group. That is the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a member of that group, visit us at shoreleavepodcast.com, click on the Facebook link, and join up. So, in this contest, our Facebook Trek Convention family get to vote on the next Star Trek character pin that Fan Sets will produce. So this can be any character from any Trek series, including the animated series, but there's one caveat that we'll talk about in a second. You can do villains, you can do aliens, you can do crew members, you can do mirror universe, whatever you can think of, with these rules in mind. So everyone gets one vote, right? You can only vote once. If you vote more than once, unfortunately, we'll have to disqualify you. So if you cast your vote and then you decide you want to change it later before the contest ends, you can go back and edit your existing comment and change your vote there. Please don't vote a second time and say, I'm changing my vote. So it adds a lot of confusion to it. So second rule, unfortunately, Discovery characters are excluded from the contest. Sorry, guys. Can't do Discovery. Any other series is good, just not Discovery. And finally, the character you vote for can't be a character that Fan Sets is already making or a slight variation thereof. Like, for example, if you voted for Captain Picard with a cup of Earl Grey in his hand, no dice. Or like Janeway with a cup of coffee in her hand. You know, you guys get the picture. So no minor, Worf with a phaser or something. So it has to be, a different character, or it could be a character within another character. So we'll go over those in a little bit. So So that's it for the rules. The contest is already up and running as of this recording on our Facebook group. We'll have a link for that in the show notes, of course. You'll be able to vote until midnight on October 14th. Once the contest closes, we're going to tally up all the votes, and the character who gets the most votes wins, of course. And everyone who voted for that character will be entered into a random drawing where one lucky winner, only one, will receive a $100 Fansets gift card and the first pin off the line when the winning character is produced. Pretty cool. So at the time of this recording, we have a couple characters who are in the lead. We've got Janeway as Queen Arachnia is out front with Garrick right behind her. And we got also Reginald Barclay has some votes. And believe it or not, Zephram Cochran has a few votes too. So it's already hot and heavy over there in the contest. So get over there and vote for your character that you'd like to see. So you need, of course, again, you need to be a member of our Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, shorelevepodcast.com, click the link, request membership, become a member, and vote. God, that was a lot to say. Did I miss anything?
You made it.
I made it through. Whew. Well, that's good.
did.
Perfect. Okay, Heather, turning the mic over to you for our super secret special announcement.
Super secret special, because no one knows about it, right? Just you and I.
You and me. Nobody knows. Not even Steve.
Not even Steve. Maybe there were some hopeful people at STLV that asked us if we were going to do a Discovery podcast. I hear that was a rumor going around.
Yeah, I got asked a couple times by a few people. So
yeah, well, we previously did not have big plans to do it, but after seeing all of the props and writers and actors at STLV, we got pretty pumped. And so the answer is yes. Premiering September 27th will be Disco Trek, a Star Trek Discovery After Party podcast. We're going to do something fun with this podcast that I've been wanting to do for a while. Obviously, people who listen to us know that our Facebook group, which you mentioned earlier, is a big part of our community. And we wanted to reach out to people, not within our podcast network. We wanted to talk to new people. We wanted to talk to our friends and get their reactions to Discovery. So we will be opening this up to people in the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group on Facebook. By the time this episode is released, we will post in the group. We'll have the graphic for the podcast and a little bit about what's involved. But essentially, so the episodes come out on Sundays. We are going to have a standing recording date on the Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. There will be some flexibility to allow for people's schedules, but we're pretty much planning on it to be Monday nights. So you'll have to be available at that time. And basically, we'll be asking people to comment on that post if they would like the chance to participate on the podcast, and then we'll be taking all of the names and using just a random generator online to draw two of those names and have those people come on to talk about Discovery. So we'll be watching Discovery on Sunday nights, recording on Monday nights, and we'll actually be posting and picking the people beforehand. We're going to post the Wednesdays previous, and then I assume by the weekend, let's say Fridays, we'll do our drawing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we'll pick that out, and that way people have a little time to prepare, get over their podcast nerves if it's their first time, and sit back, enjoy Discovery, and then come on and give us your reaction. So it'll be different people every time. If we do get someone's name twice, we'll have to kind of go pick someone else because we really want to give everyone a chance to participate.
Yeah, definitely. And
so we'll have episodes. It premieres, as everyone knows, this weekend, Sunday the 24th. And then we have 8 episodes that go through November 5th. And then we'll have a holiday break, and Discovery comes back January 7th through February 18th. So 15 episodes total. And so 15 chances, 30 people.
Yep, 30 chances to win.
That get to participate. we're really excited about this because we wanted to find a way to let everyone participate in the podcast. When we go to these conventions, we get a lot of feedback that, oh, I was listening and I really wanted to jump in. And I do that myself when I listen to podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
You want to be part of the conversation. So I figured this is a great way to open up the conversation and give everyone a chance to participate. So we are super excited. I may be more excited about doing the podcast than I am about Discovery.
Aw.
Though I'm really excited about Discovery. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I'm
me
just
too.
saying that I'm just very excited to talk about it with all of our friends afterward.
It's a fabulous, fabulous idea, and I'm really excited about it too. Oh, you know what we forgot to mention too? That
What?
if you don't happen to win the lottery, we are also going to have a voicemail number that
Oh,
you can
yeah.
call and leave up to a 2-minute message with your thoughts on the Discovery episode that we can also add onto the end of our show. So
Mhm.
we'll be giving that number out as well. And like I said, so you still have a chance. Even if
Yeah.
you don't win, you don't luck out, you can still give us your feedback.
Yeah, we just ask that you not use profanity.
Yes, we're
so
gonna
that
have
we
to
can
bleep you.
actually, yeah, we'll have to bleep you or not include you. We have to make this a G-rated podcast.
Yes.
So that's the only caveat there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we keep it clean. We like to keep the family-friendly rating here on Shore Leave. So awesome stuff. So we got this really cool contest, and we've got a brand new show starting up that's going to be focused on all of you guys out there in our Facebook group. So 2 big things for our Facebook group. We love you guys out there. We love our community, and we're so happy that we can give back to all of you. So
If you'd like some unsolicited commentary from your live audience of one,
yes, please, Steve.
having just heard that, it sounds terrific. I think one of the many fun things, or one of the most fun things, is this rare opportunity for you guys to get some live feedback, or relatively live within a couple of days, of new Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Usually Star Trek, because of all the series and everything, it's in the past. I think this is fantastic. It's a rare opportunity for people to be a part of something as it's happening. So I think it's going to be a big success.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll follow that up by saying just a little bit about the name. That's kind of why I picked Disco Trek. I mean, I know that it's kind of the shorthand people are using for Discovery, but the concept of having a little, discotheque, Disco Trek, where we can all get together, and even though it's online or on a podcast, like we can still all kind of have that party. So then Jeff came up with the after party line, which is super cute. So that explains a little bit about the name and how it goes with the concept. And we really appreciate that. We're glad to hear you're excited. Hopefully that means everyone else will be excited too.
I think they will. As soon as this hits the air and that first post goes live, I bet you we're going to get a lot of people who are going to be really happy and want to come on. So I am really excited. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be amazing. So, all right. Well, I guess we can move on to the reason that Steve is here. We're going to be talking about the recent Trekonderoga convention that took place in Ticonderoga, New York, and it's based around the original series set tour that is up there right in the middle of town, and they have a little convention that's attached to it. Steve and I were in attendance for that a few weekends ago, and guys, there's a lot to say about this convention. I guess we can start by talking about the location that it's set in. Is up in Ticonderoga, New York, and if that name sounds familiar, yes, it's where the pencils come from, or used to come from, rather. Ticonderoga &2 pencils. Steve, we drove up there, and we drove from central western New Jersey, and it was about a 5.5 hour drive. Is that about right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, and I was glad that Steve drove. Thank you for that, Steve.
No problem.
I hope you bought him dinner.
Oh yes, I actually did.
I was going to mention that anyone who ever gets the opportunity to go to upstate New York, Ticonderoga is one of the towns that surrounds beautiful Lake George. So we had an unbelievably beautiful weekend weather-wise.
Yeah.
So the ride up was great, the scenery was great, and Ticonderoga, the town itself, was great. So that was a bonus because it could have been raining.
Yeah.
It still would have been fun, but it was, that added to it. So it was great.
It could have been winter too.
Yes. Winter's brutal up there.
I lived in Ithaca, New York for 2 years a while back. I've never been to Ticonderoga, but that's still Finger Lakes region then. Okay.
Yes.
I remember you mentioning it. I wondered because, I lived by Lake Cayuga. So I was like, which one did they go to? But yeah, I can follow that up with confirmation that New York in the summer is beautiful. Upstate New York.
Aside from just going to Ticonderoga, we went and drove around Lake George. We drove out to another town called Paradox, which was perfect for Steve because of his website, Paradox Parkway. But my breath was taken away by the scenery. I took a lot of roadway pictures and, out the window of the car and lakes. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And anybody, if you do wind up going to this convention, book a little bit of time to just drive around and look at the scenery.
Is it usually in August? Is it every August?
I believe so. Don't hold me to that. It may vary a little bit around there, but I believe it's around the same time.
Yeah. And maybe at this part of this discussion, maybe just to say a little bit more about the town. It's a small town, one pizzeria, one bakery, a video store that's still active. We were very excited about that.
With VHS tapes for rental.
Yep, exactly. But beautiful surrounding areas. Jeff mentioned Ticonderoga. The factory was there with the pencils, but also a beautiful park. We found a ferry that would take you across, I can't remember the other lake, over to Vermont and back, a 7-minute ride. It's just terrific. And I think we'll get into it, but part of the charm of the visit to the Trekonderoga event was spending some time in Ticonderoga. You get to know the town very quickly. The main road, is through town, but it's really, really nice.
Yeah. And one thing that really, really stuck out to me was the community in Ticonderoga, being a very small town, were so welcoming and open to Trek fans. In fact, a lot of the storefronts had signs in the window that said, "Welcome Star Trek fans." The Chamber of Commerce had a sign that said, "Welcome Star Trek fans." A lot of the restaurants had special menus, with dishes named after, the Spock sandwich, the Kirk sandwich. The little pizza place had like a little section on the wall where they had autographed pictures from Trek actors and actresses who had visited there. So, I mean, it was extremely welcoming for a small town, almost a sleepy town, to welcome in this. I don't know how many people came. I would probably imagine there were at least several hundred at any given time while we were there, maybe closer to 1,000 if you count everyone who was in the convention space, plus the town, plus the set tours. So it was quite a large influx for a small town. I was really happy to see. And the Trek fans, of course, were as they always are at all the conventions we go to. It's the same type of crowd. Everyone is calm, and some people were in cosplay. Everyone was pleasant and having a really good time. So I think every place we went into, there were Trek folks, right, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. And we'll get into it as well. But for the convention, the local businesses support the convention as well. So some of the crew shirts of the people who were working there, on the back, it had the pizzeria, the bakery, the bookstore, what have you. There are about six local shops that support the convention as well. So just
Right.
A nice communal feel.
So I just want to emphasize for people that don't know a whole lot about Trekonderoga and Triconderoga and the original set that's there. So basically, you guys talked to James Cawley, right, when you were there?
Yeah, he actually, we got a VIP set tour from James on Sunday, and we talked to him quite a bit about it. So yeah, he's the creator of the original series set tour. That's pretty much right in the center of town. I mean, it's got, big signs on it that say original series set tour. It's a very large building. It looks kind of like an old grocery store or a warehouse. I'm not sure what it was. I know it was some kind of a business prior to him buying it. Maybe a car dealership. Maybe, I'm not sure, but it's a large place. It's got a parking lot in front of it, plenty of signs. You can't possibly miss it right when you come into town. So, and the convention space is actually down the street, and to the left you go up a little hill, and there's a high school up at the top of the hill on the left-hand side, and that was where they actually held the convention proper. So the convention itself is not in the set tour.
Right.
So the vendor's room and the panel space and the celebrity autographs are all done up at the high school. So we'll get into a little bit of the breakdown, but that's kind of the way the layout of the town went, and it is kind of centered around. They also had some other stuff sort of outside the set tour, like they had the Bat Boat and a couple of Starfleet Federation decorated cars, and was the Batmobile there too, Steve?
Yeah, well, yeah, because Lee Merriweather was there,
Right,
so
Lee
they had
Merriweather
some bat stuff.
Bat stuff.
Yeah. So I just wanted to emphasize that essentially the Star Trek set tour is there permanently.
Yes.
And so that is a big part of why all of the towns have all of the Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
And are supportive of Star Trek, because the Star Trek set tour seems to be helping out their economy a bit by driving tourism there.
Yeah, and that's what James and some of his employees were saying when we were at the set tour and we were talking to them. And one of the things that it seems to be part of his overall plan is to help the economy of Ticonderoga by bringing tourism back to the area with his the original series set tour, and of course this convention that he holds there, once a year. And I think he's quite successful with his partnerships with the business and bringing people into town. I mean, I don't know for sure. I should have looked this up if the set tour is open all year round, but I know it is open, not just for the convention. You can go there, and I think the tour is about $22.
Yeah.
$22.50, something of that nature.
$22.50, and they've got discounted prices. They've got military, police, fire pricing, family pricing. So lots of opportunity there. And then right now it has through October 22nd, tour hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 6 p.m., closed on Mondays. And then I don't know if they close for the winter or how that works.
Yeah, check the website. If you're going to plan to go up there, check the website to make sure that they're operating. But now I'm not sure if they always offer, the same VIP type tours with James, because they had several people who would guide the tours through the sets. So, you know what? I guess while we're talking about this, we can talk a little bit about the actual set tour. And I don't want to spoil a lot of this for anybody who hasn't seen it, but one thing that I will say, spoiler free, is it's totally worth it. I was blown away by it. Steve, were you blown away by it? I thought you were.
Absolutely. And maybe some backstory, maybe just a quick couple more words on James, as much as we know. And this is my recollection of what I read or know. So James, I think, is from the area, and that's why he's supporting it.
Yep.
I don't know the sequence of this, but I believe he started building these sets so he could make his Star Trek films.
Yes.
He played Captain Kirk in a couple of, so I think it might be New Voyages. So he played Captain Kirk, and I think he built these so he could make those episodes. I believe that he would, in the past, even rent them out to other people who want to make Star Trek. As Jeff mentioned, with the warehouse setting, you can imagine how much space you'd need to have a bridge, a transporter room, and many of the other rooms, life-size, real feel, hallway, Enterprise hallway, in place. So
yeah, all of the sets that they have there, I'll just quickly list them off. Steve said transporter room. They've got Kirk's quarters, sick bay, the lab, the briefing room, main engineering, a Jeffries tube, the bridge, and a corridor that connects everything. So you don't go from set to set to set, walking between them. You actually use the ship's hallway to go between the sets. So you actually kind of feel like you're walking through the interior of the Enterprise.
Like it's completely immersive.
Yeah, the only part that's not yet immersive is the transition to the bridge. It's still kind of an unfinished hallway they're still working on, but it's sooner or later it's going to be a complete experience. But everything else, again, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but you enter, they have a little museum when you walk in. There's an exhibit on the right-hand side that wraps around that has costumes and props and Nomad and a few other things in it that you can look at, and some other Desilu memorabilia are scattered around. And they have like a double door that when you go to the tour, they kind of slide the double door open and you walk into this hallway, and the transporter room is on your right, and that's where you start, or on your left rather, and that's where you start your tour, and they go room to room to room, of course. But as Steve said, sets are all built to scale. all life size, no missing walls or any of that stuff. I mean, they'll tell you where the walls moved for the cameras to come in, but so you really feel like the second I walked through those double doors, I felt like I was actually on the ship. It was surreal. They even have the lighting down.
And they nicely keep it, away from you. They have a Desilu studio door to hold you off. So like, okay, it's time for the tour to begin. They open the door, and I think he even started his presentation with, "Let me take you back in time to the mid 60s." And you walk in, everything's right. The lights are right. The hallway's there, all the little panels on the doors. And just as a tease, they have the red alert buttons ready to go. So all the tours, hit the button, all the lights down the hallway, and the red lights are flashing and say, you're there. There's no question, you're there. So it was great. Like I said, we don't want to spoil it, but I don't think we'll spoil it. You can't not love it when you're there.
Yeah, it's difficult to spoil an immersive experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like telling someone who's never been to Disney World, "Oh, well, there's Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain or whatever," but there's no way to really spoil what it feels like walking down Main Street for the first time.
Absolutely right.
And the unexpected pleasure of this is James, we met someone else named Dave. The people that put this together and the people that run this know how you want to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not stand behind this red, velvet rope and look at the sets over there. You get to walk in the set.
Mm-hmm.
You get to touch the stuff.
Stand in the transporter, yeah.
Yeah, you get to take all the pictures you want. Put your hands on the 3 buttons for the transporter while your friend is standing in the transporter and take that picture. He'll say, "Stand over here so it looks like the show."
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that really lends to, James having been a fan and an actor. He's been involved in a few different productions outside of Star Trek Voyages. Is Phase 2 is what it was called. So he's been doing a lot, and I think that is just really evident versus stuff like a set at a convention where they're like, "No, they're got to put ropes around it. You can't touch it." Da, da, da.
He easily slips from tour guide to geeking out with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he'll say, we got, the more geeky he got.
I'll say, "Yeah, check this out. Look how the triples look around in this container."
Yeah, totally worth. And last Steve was saying the other folks who work there are just as passionate as he is. So he mentioned that gentleman Dave that we ran into there, and he built some of the metal work on some of the sets, like the ladders and some of the pieces in main engineering. And he was telling us about his process for building those metal pieces, and he would make them in his home shop and drive an hour to the set and see if they fit, and they didn't fit, and he brought them back home. He had such passion for it, and everybody that worked there had passion for it. So you really felt like you were in a real Star Trek setting with people who really loved Star Trek. So it made it all the more encompassing and all the more engrossing because you knew they loved it as much as you do.
He would not hesitate to tell you, "The only angle we had of this was in 3 episodes, and it was from over here, and we had this picture. So we weren't sure what this piece was on the other side. And then we found in another episode, this happened." And he said, and then someone who toured it said, "I think I'm supposed to be sticking out, an extra 1/4 inch." He goes, "Oh no, I saw it." So they're telling us this passion of getting that thing right that you saw for 2 seconds in the show to get it right. So
that's
Totally
awesome.
amazing.
Well, I think whether there's a convention going on or not, which we'll move over to here in a second, I think that it sounds like this is a pretty cool thing for Trekkies to do.
it is not to be missed.
I would agree
Where
with you.
else can you have that experience? Stand in all the rooms. Look at the medical bay. He's got the monitor on the back, and the tables swivel up and down, and the instruments on the wall. And you're like, "Yeah."
It's amazing. And by the way, they're not done. There's still
They're
stuff
not
that they're building there. So there's going to be even more. So when you go
That's
back in a
awesome.
year, they're working on the decompression chamber in sick bay.
Very cool. Yeah, I would say keep an eye on the website. Make sure they're going to be open. And you needed to make reservations for the tour, right?
Well, for the VIP tour we did, yeah.
Okay.
I think the VIP tour was just part of the convention because we bought the tickets through the convention website, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I don't see an option on the website for a VIP tour. I just see the regular tickets. So, first and foremost, make sure they're going to be open.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm always an err on the side of caution. So, call ahead, email, see if you have to make a reservation or not before you plan your entire trip around it. We've all said, go in the summer, go when upstate New York is beautiful. Visit the lakes. I'm not a fan of the wine there because it's a bit too sweet, but they're known for their Riesling around the area.
How come I didn't know about that? I love Riesling.
Because you didn't talk to me about it. There's a plethora of history and beauty in upstate New York. I'm a little bit sad I don't still live there, but only because I would be in driving distance to Ticonderoga. I keep wanting to call it Trekonderoga. Yeah, but it sounds really cool. Maybe next year you can arrange your trip so that you also get to this convention. So let's talk about the convention. My understanding here is that it's a little different from something like STLV or Mission New York. It's a bit smaller.
I would call it the polar opposite of a big convention like STLV or Mission New York. And that is not a bad thing in my mind. To be honest with you, going to STLV and we've said this before on the show, can be overwhelming. It's fun. It's a big party and there's tons of people. This was like a quiet, peaceful little convention. So like we said, the actual convention space was a little bit up the road from the set tour. There's a high school up there and it's a very old high school. So it's really cool to go inside and look at the architecture and the woodwork and the marble work. And you feel like you've gone back in time. It's so sleepy and cool. So let's talk about the inside of the school. The gymnasium of the high school was the vendor's room.
Home of the Ticonderoga Sentinels.
Yes, the Ticonderoga Sentinels. So they had bleachers and basketball hoops and the whole 9 yards. But all that stuff was kind of cleared out. And they had, vendor tables and vendor spaces. And there were some familiar faces there that I'd seen at other conventions. And they also had a bridge and captain's chair, TOS captain's chair photo op setup thing that you could do there as well. So it was smaller, than you would have it at an STLV style vendor room, but there was still quite a bit there to see. And there were quite a bit of our vendors that we know were represented there. There was a little fan sets display. There's a vendor that was selling that stuff. And there's some pop figures and tribbles. Wait,
was he an approved retailer for fan sets?
Yes, he was.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
He was. I checked.
All right.
He was.
Good job, fan sets.
Yes, I messaged them from there.
Yeah, I saw your picture and I was like, wait a second here. Is this illegal selling? Did he get them at STLV and then bring them there and try to make money off of them there? Because that's not cool.
No, yeah, I made sure that I checked with the Fansets folks on that. So they knew who the guy is and so it was all legit. But cool. It was a very cool little vendor's room setup. And one of the really cool things was we stumbled onto this on Sunday while we were wandering around. They also held Walter Koenig's solo panel in the gymnasium. They moved the captain's chair over and Walter sat in the captain's chair and all the folks who were watching him sat in the bleachers and watched him and listened to him. And we sat there for a while and listened to him too. And he was very animated and in great spirits. And we had a really, really good time sitting there and listening to Walter. Even he got a little political, but overall, I mean, the people just enjoyed it. He was just taking question after question after question from the audience. Steve, you were sitting there right next to me. What did you think of that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, again, about the venue, sounds funny, but you quickly adapt to being in a high school. And it was fun sitting on the bleachers talking to Walter Koenig. And then you leave the vendor room, you walk down the hallway, past science and French class, and then you get into where, the guests were. Or you go upstairs past math and history, and that's where the panel rooms were, the game room. So,
and the model contest.
It was great. It's just another venue, smaller. Parking was great. They had a nice, selection of guests. You wouldn't have expected Lee Merriweather, Barbara Luna, Walter Koenig, Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah. and a few others going up to Ticonderoga. It's a party, man.
Yeah, and they had they had the little cafeteria cleared out with tables around the perimeter, and they had all the celebs doing their photo ops there, and there were times where we saw quite healthy lines for Walter and Nichelle, and people really turned out, and the celebs seemed like they were all in really good spirits. Steve, you got Lee Merriweather, right?
Yep. The thing that's great about this kind of convention, there's no overbearing convention gods, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's a lot that has to be managed at a large convention.
Yep.
You got people to deal with, you got to move them, you got photo ops and everything. This was very friendly. Walk up, get in line, talk as long as you like. Prices were more reasonable, which you don't think you'll ever have that experience, and then here it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you talked to Eddie Paskey for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, so Eddie Paskey, Lieutenant Leslie, probably appeared in more episodes. He's the 10th most person in episodes.
Yeah.
I talked to him for a bit. It was great. For me, for my personal Paradox Parkway passion, I believe he's the person who drove the truck that killed Edith Keeler sitting on the edge forever. So he had a lot to do with the Star Trek universe, if you think about that. So I was excited to see him, and he had a nice little line. I went up, waited my turn, and got to chat with him. So nice little surprise there in that environment. So really fun.
That's one of the reasons we really push going to some of these smaller conventions for people who want that more personal experience with the actors, because it's something that really just doesn't happen at the larger conventions. Aside from you're randomly in an elevator with someone, these small conventions are really just prime ground for that kind of interaction. I'm curious, how much do tickets cost to this?
I think we paid one price for the weekend, as far as I understand, as far as I recall. It wasn't prohibitive by any means. We didn't get to be there for 3 days, but we still bought the one ticket, I think, that they sold. But
yeah, I think it was like 60 or 65
for 3 days.
Yeah, for 3 days.
Plus the VIP tour was extra.
Was beyond that, right? That was for the set, right? This is for the convention.
So very inexpensive.
Extremely inexpensive compared to other conventions that we're used to talking about. I mean, even Mission New York was pricey too, and even the smaller creation conventions here in New Jersey and in Chicago are much more expensive than that. So it's just the only prohibitive thing I think about this convention is just getting there, because there's really not an airport that's super close. So be prepared to drive quite a ways.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, because I would fly into Syracuse and then still drive an hour to get to Ithaca.
Yep.
So I don't know if that or Rochester, or you could make a whole week out of it and fly into New York City and then drive even more. I guess it would be around the same if you guys are coming from Jersey.
Yeah, I think that the easiest way that we discovered as we were driving around up there, just checking stuff out, we went over near Fort Ticonderoga, the famous military base that you can tour as well if you're a history buff. There's a lot of history up there that you can see. But we came across an Amtrak stop right outside of Ticonderoga. So if you had access to Amtrak up in that area, like if you did fly into New York City, you could take an Amtrak train from Penn Station directly up to to that area. You just have to be able to get from that little train station into town proper. So I don't know what the Uber situation is up there. I didn't check it. I should have done that while I was there, but walking from there might be a little tricky.
I was gonna say, I thought we did talk to one of the knickknack stores we went into, and again, another person who was, very welcoming of James' support of the town. And I think she said they don't have the Uber, infrastructure there yet. So yeah, local transportation might be a little limited, and it's a little out of the way to get up there, but it's a destination. It's worth it, as we're saying, because we had the same moment of indecision. Like, do we want to make a 5-hour car ride for this after it was done? Absolutely. There's no question.
Yeah. One bit of advice though, and this is something that happened to Steve and I because we waited a little too long to try to book hotel rooms for it. If you wait too long, there's not a lot of hotel space in the town. I mean, it's not it's not like you're going to find a gigantic chain hotel up there. You're not going to find a Courtyard or, a Hilton or anything. There's smaller hotels in town and they will fill up. And we wound up having to stay at a hotel that was a good, 20 minutes, 25 minutes away.
And it was just our mistake. There's a lot of Lake George activities besides Trekonderoga that happen all summer. So, which we did not partake in, but that's why the hotel rooms fill up quickly. So that was just a mistake, easily remedied.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's about a 4-hour drive from Syracuse. So that's doable, but you're also like right next to Vermont.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right by the state line there. And I'm not familiar with Vermont and airports there or whatnot, but I think it probably wouldn't be that difficult to get in pretty quickly. And it's just such a nice area that there's lots to do. And so I think.
Yeah. And lots of history, by the way. I mean, we walked through some gorgeous parks that were right there in town. They have a gorgeous park with a waterfall there, and that made for great walking. They have a little museum for the town you can walk through, and they have a little souvenir shop that sells some cool Ticonderoga stuff and pencils. They have the pencils. And very friendly people and some really great places to eat. We ate, I think, at every one of we ate at the pizza place, we ate at the diner, we ate at the bakery. So I think we partook in every restaurant.
At least 2 ice cream shops. Mm-hmm. And out of town, we found a maple, not refinery, I can't think of the word, but, it was a nice discovery as we're just driving around. Terrific. Nice little breakfast place. And, it's a great area.
Can't stress that enough. Definitely get around while you're up there. You might have to rent a car or something and drive out from whatever airport you fly into. But
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely worth it. So, Steve, did you have anything else that you wanted to mention? I think we talked about, the high school, the panel space thing was upstairs, and they also had a costume contest, of course. There weren't as many people in elaborate cosplay there as you would see at an STLV or something like that, but there still were many people in uniform. There was a Klingon contingent that we saw there at the pizza place, of all places, having pizza. But the spirit of Trek was still alive. The cosplayers were still there. I think if you do stay in town proper, it's not a long walk from the convention space to one of the 2 little hotels they had there. So cosplay is definitely an option. Your room's not too far away, so don't let that dissuade you. It's encouraged, and your pictures on the set tour will be all that much better if you're in uniform. I regretted not bringing mine, so I totally should have done that.
Well, it's cool to know that you can take pictures on that tour.
Yeah, no video, but still photos all you want.
That's cool.
Yeah, flash included. You can do all of that stuff. I posted if you look in the Shore Leave Facebook page, there's a gallery of pictures. I think it's 70 some odd pictures I posted. And I still have to add some of Steve's as well, because he got a lot of pictures that from different angles that I didn't get. So, but if you don't want to spoil the set tour, don't go look at them.
I was like, spoilers.
Yeah, big spoilers there, big spoilers. And I apologize to anybody who just happened to stumble across them when I posted them. But yeah, lots and lots of pictures there.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if that would spoil it. You know what the medical area looks like. You know what the transport room looks like. The fact that it exists for you to be able to go there and take pictures, that wouldn't spoil it for me. No. I mean, think about Kirk's room. They talked about the material they wanted for the beds, and they have some real props. I think they have a metal box that was in mirror that was on his nightstand, and they have a replicator next to the bed, and you just go like, oh my God, everything's here. That attention to detail is great. You asked what else? You pretty much covered everything. I was going to say they did seem to have a contingent of panels throughout the convention in 1 or 2 of the rooms. Either the guests. I know Lee Merriweather had a talk, and Walter had his talk, and probably others. But they also had other 1-hour things throughout the day. So we didn't get to partake in all of that, but it's just, it's a full convention. They give you everything you would expect.
Yeah, there's certainly enough to do. I think there were 2 time travel panels that I remember seeing. I was surprised you didn't go to them.
We had Ticonderoga to see.
Yes, we did. And yeah, and like I said, costume contest, they had a game room, a Star Trek game room set up for tabletop gaming. That was really cool. They had all the different the different models and pieces out that you could look at, and he would teach you how to play the tabletop game, and you could buy your own there, which was really cool. They had a model contest where people were building Trek models in one of the science labs. It was really neat, giant Enterprise and the Baylock head and all of that stuff. So lots of cool stuff there.
So I popped onto the website, and I guess you guys did not attend the Saturday night concert with James Cawley as his alter ego Elvis.
Yes, we did miss the Saturday night. We had to go and check into our hotel room. It was getting really late, and we had a cutoff, so we couldn't stay for that. But from what I hear, from what people were telling me, that is one of the highlights of the Trekonderoga convention is James's performance as Elvis. And by the way, that's another thing that people may not know about him, is that he used a lot of the money that he made as an Elvis impersonator to build these sets. So he was using one fandom to feed the other, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is
one more example of the fun. You go into engineering, it's engineering, and they have the grate that Scotty would lean against as the ship was, and James says, "Get over there and take the picture." Like, he knows that's what you want.
That's awesome.
You tilt your camera a little bit so it looks like you're on the diagonal, and you grab your hands through the metal grate and you lean over. I got one, Steve got one.
The lighting is right. It's really great.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right. Well, I guess we've really covered everything that we can cover about the tour and the convention, and I guess we can just kind of give our overall wrap up. And I would say that, in my experience, it was definitely 100% worth it. I know Steve agrees, and if you're ever on the fence about going, definitely go. It's worth seeing the set tour. It's worth seeing the nice little convention in the high school, and the town is so nice and charming, and the people are very kind. So, I mean, you can't really go wrong with this. Like I said, it's a nice, low-key Trek convention. It's going to be like the opposite of what you've experienced at the bigger, more hectic conventions. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, if the feeling is that the one deterrent would be it's out of the way. So you're saying, yes, it's a time commitment. It's certainly not a money commitment. It's not an expensive trip, but it's a time issue. The enjoyment of the set tour alone is worth it, in our opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're talking about you got to sacrifice 4 hours, but you get to walk the Enterprise, sit in the captain's chair, come on.
Who wouldn't?
In a full bridge, all stations are there with lights. It's looking at the view screen.
Full transporter room with the control panels.
I mean, this is the only place that you're going to get an immersive experience on the original series set. So
and they don't rush you through it either. You're on the tour and it's like, enjoy this room, and they give you a lot of details about how they piece it together. Some details about like the 3D chessboard was based on some toys from the 60s that they used to create these props. So you get a little backstory with all these things. And think about Vegas, and they set up those sets for photo ops. You can take photos in the hallway, sick bay, transporter.
Yeah.
It's really, like I said, if it's a balance of time and cost versus opportunity, I pick opportunity.
Yeah, I'd say this is a quality over quantity type of experience.
Definitely. It's a destination.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're helping support, small town America. It's great to know that we as Star Trek fans, Star Trek is doing this and helping this little community thrive. So it's a great place to invest your money for a wonderful experience. And I say this having never been there.
She's taking our word for it.
Yeah. The conventions at the high school, the Elvis shows at the middle school, the set tours in the middle of town. So they're embracing the town, and the town is embracing them. So
yeah,
absolutely. So, well, I guess that brings us to the end of our Trekonderoga coverage for 2017. Something tells me that Steve and I may be going back there again for another.
It's hard to convince yourself that you don't want to see it again.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I guess that wraps up the 32nd episode of Shore Leave. Guys, don't forget that we're running that contest, the Fansets contest, in our Facebook group. please jump over there and cast your vote for the next Fansets character. And of course, keep your eyes peeled for the launch of Disco Trek that Heather teased earlier. Going to be up and running here in the next week. So I know Discovery's coming out. Everyone's excited, and we are excited, and we're excited to talk to all of you out there in listener land. And I cannot wait for our first pair of winners, our random winners that are going to be joining us for the first episode of Disco Trek. And Steve Sikoriak, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the show and talk about Trekonderoga. Do you want to take a minute as we're trailing off here to give us a little bit of insight into what Paradox Parkway is, your passion project?
Absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thank you both very much for the opportunity to get in the Tricorder game. This is a lot of fun. I enjoy listening, and it's fun to be a part of it. So really quickly, my passion project is something called Paradox Parkway. I've always liked paradoxes as a thing. I like to be confused and challenged. I also enjoy time travel in a very broad perspective. So I've built this site, paradoxparkway.com, to be the repository for all that fun stuff. I currently have about 11,000 time travel novels, episodes, movies, references, paradoxes in a titles database that's part of the site. Along with that, the people that created that or time traveled or wrote the stories. So I'm building this as we go, but the site itself currently has a Today in Time segment where you can see what came out today, what movies were released, people's birthdays related to that concept. There's 3 videos that you can see, a little time travel movie, cartoon, and TV montage. And I also have a tagline trivia game where you can read the tagline of a time travel movie and see if you can guess which one it's from. So it's as a passion project I'm building as we go. I thank you for the opportunity to mention it.
Of course. I've been a witness to this entire project from day one. Steve and I have known each other for a very long time, so I've been encouraging him. I'm so happy to see the progress on this thing. So excited for you, Steve. And I'm just going to throw this out there that Steve has also done a few time travel panels at local conventions around here. So Paradox Parkway extends beyond just the website. So you may someday catch Steve at a local convention here in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York area. Keep your eyes peeled.
That's true. And you can contact me, Steve, at paradoxparkway.com if you so desire.
Awesome. So, Heather Barker, where can people find you online?
I am on Twitter under LLA Posper, and then one of the 3 administrators of the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group on Facebook. So you can find me in those 2 places.
I am one of the other of the 3 admins for the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas Facebook group. You can also find me there. I am also Warp Factor Jeff on Twitter. And the show, of course, is Shore Leave, and you can find us at shoreleavepodcast.com, and we are at Shore Leave on Twitter. So look us up, talk to us, and we hope to see you throwing your name in the hat for Disco Trek later this week. And thanks, of course, to everybody for listening, and we will see you the next time on Shore Leave. Hi there, thanks again for listening. If you're cruising the galaxy looking for even more Trek talk, why not visit our good friends Bill and Dan over at TrekGeeks.com? They've got a great podcast that covers a wide range of Star Trek topics, so you're sure to find something you'll love. And if you're in the mood for some awesome tunes, then you really need to head over to 5yearmission.net. The guys are writing a song for every episode of the original series, and each one is absolutely brilliant. So that's TrekGeeks.com and 5yearmission.net. Check them out today.